Hello, everyone. Welcome to Daring AF. My name is Veronica Salinas, and I'm your host. And I am the founder of Vulnerable as Fuck and the creator of Daring as Fuck. So I love creating transformational spaces that amplify vulnerability, courage, and truth. So I am really excited to have one of my dear friends, Marci Locke, who's otherwise known as Sundari, and she is she is a superhuman. Like when I met her in Bali, damn, like she is just this. She radiates power and light and just like she makes you when you're around her in her presence, she makes you just want to know more about her and learn from her. So you guys are in for such a treat today. She has so many codes and gifts that she shares, and she is so amazing. So I'm so happy to have her on the summit. So thank you.
Thank you, beloved. You
So
are so special to me. I get a lot of requests for and it's usually a no, just to be in balance of my harmony of time and all the things. And with you, I was like, fuck yes, daring as
thank
fuck,
you.
Veronica, yes.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate you being here. I'm just going to introduce Marci really quick. So she is a mentor, in other words known as Sundari, the alchemist of light and liberation. She is a global heart and feel leader for the planet and guide to lasting healing and rapid transformation. She shared with me, and I want to mention this. She went from a single $2 waitress to $1 million mentor and transformational spiritual leader. So if that's not possible to transform, I don't know what is. So yeah, Marci, tell us a little bit about who you are. I know I just shared, but if there's something that you want to share with us that I missed.
Goodness. This is probably the most challenging question for me, because I believe in quantum leaping and transformation. And I, my just a bit of my journey being from that $2 an hour waitress with two boys to feed, becoming a single mom, to creating, created a 90-day mind body transformation program in gyms, and then was a nutrition fitness mindset expert on TV. So I was really like dove into the mindset and transformation and, all the things that you stand for, which is being daring as fuck and just stepping into like being led by spirit is really, one of the things I teach so much of, to becoming diving deep into the emotional side of things, realizing mindset was kind of just to scratch the surface, and it's really an inkling of manifestation. And most of surface self-empowerment, I call kind of bullshit self-empowerment, is just like, it's always keeping people stuck in a cycle because it doesn't fill in all the gaps. So I really dove into emotional alchemy and realizing how everything within our cells is vibrating, and what we get to cleanse and clear to be a clear vibration to be able to manifest with ease. And then that led me to becoming like, a priestess and a swami and a medicine woman, and having $1 million clients and, retreats all over the world and speaking all over the world, and a book and a podcast. And now I'm a spiritual teacher. So, I mean, it's like goes from like personal trainer, nutrition fitness expert on TV to, spiritual teacher and guide. And this is just like, that's why it's like lifetimes and lifetimes of that we have access to literally quantum leap through, that it feels like, that starting process that so many people know about is like, how did you become go from a $2 an hour waitress to $1 million coach to a spiritual teacher? It's because we're not meant to be stagnant. We're meant to consistently evolve and follow our greatest discovery. Life is our greatest adventure, our most luscious love affair. And, so yeah, like there's a big span of experience. I've been probably on this journey committed and devoted to my divinity, and really committed to consciousness for 20 plus years, 25 plus years. And so, yeah, here I am being like woo-woo as fuck and channeling aliens and angels and all sorts of things, and things that I never would have ever even thought I'd have capabilities to do. But that again becomes the more we follow and are where we're guided with life. Life is our greatest purpose. We are a purpose. the more these capabilities and access points open up for us as we continue to shed and we continue to receive. So there's a lot to my story, but
Yeah.
there's a whole documentary they did on the story of my life, probably years and years and years ago, before even all this. So, but yeah, that's the gist of it. Is it's quite a ride. It's a beautiful journey, beautiful adventure.
Yeah. Woo woo as fuck. That's just my next summit.
I love it. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, and the topic that we're talking about is embodied empire led by spirit. And why I wanted you on here is because you are an embodiment of what you teach, right?
Yeah.
You are embodiment of taking what you learned from your experience and sharing it with the world. You know, you talk very openly about your challenges, the messes you've made, the messes that happened, and you know, all the things, and how you've taken that and really created your life. And even if it's woo woo as fuck, even if it's something that might be weird or different to somebody else, like you step into it, right? And you're not afraid of like taking the gift that you naturally have inside of you, because we all have gifts inside of us. We all have something powerful to share. Okay. And you are there. So I love that about you.
I'm still always evolving. And yet it's
totally,
that's the process, the human journey. I as much as I'm mystical as fuck now and I'm super woo woo, I'm also very much human. And that's part of my gift, is just bridging the gaps. Like, we're here to be embodied. We're here to be grounded into this earth. We chose to be on this earth plane, and yet to come to remembrance of our God consciousness. I'm a God experiencing myself being human, and all the plays of like my, you know, it's interesting being in a place where I can witness things from my wholeness and also witness things from my human self, and be like experiencing it as a human, and yet also knowing so much greater that how I get to alchemize and allow myself to move through those human experiences to see beyond the Maya and illusion, to dissolve the stuck energy, the stories, the programs in ourselves. Even in our epigenetics, we have 40 plus generations in our DNA, in our epigenetics, that we chose into by being into our families, that are here for us to cleanse and clear, to be able to be clear light bodies, to be enlightened. Is to be in light. So our natural state is to be in bliss and joy and flow, and to create with ease and grace. And we also, being gods, we have the opportunity to learn and discover in whatever ways we choose, which means we can also choose from struggle and hardship and suffering and sacrifice and trials and all of that. And I did that for a really long time. And I was like, this is fucking crazy. This is crazy. Normal is not really comfortable. And so hence I've embraced not being normal, or being like, my normal is being, you know, abnormal. My normal is being different, because we're all meant to be different. And so it's like we can only receive these gifts when we listen to ourselves, because the true trauma that really happens to people is when they disconnect from themselves. As a child, we experience something, and usually we're taught, again, go to the corner, you know, it's not okay to throw a tantrum, it's not okay to feel emotion. And so we shut down feeling our feelings, our emotions. We shut down our intuition to ourselves, our inner guidance. That's really what makes life so fucking easy. The universe is effortlessly guiding us moment by moment, life being our purpose. Everything in front of us is always the gift of what is next for us to receive. It's showing us what wants to be healed and loved and be able to be alchemized to light. So we're a higher frequency. Then we're at this effortless frequency of vibration to manifest whatever we want. Anything I look towards, we're taught surface is like to come from lack. That's not even true, you know. And so there's a massive gap to manifesting, just because there's a gap within ourselves. Obviously, we know everything's reflecting outside of us, it's within. So once we cleanse and clear and we come to alignment, or come into more remembrance of ourselves, the easier and easier and easier it gets, because that's our divine birthright. It's our natural state.
I love that. I love when you talk about cleaning and clearing and coming in alignment with yourself. That's what it really is. It's always coming back to alignment.
Yep.
And anything that's in the way of that.
because the micro tweak creates a massive transformation. So many people are like, I got it. How do I do this big whole thing? And it actually keeps us from just, I always say, put your head the fuck down. What's the next inch? And just take the next inch. And the micro things that we see in our words, our belief systems, all those things that we then get to tweak, create a massive difference and allow the vibration to shift and change. Yeah.
I love that. I love that. And it really takes something to go from a story or conditioning and a story that you believed was true about you to transform to someone living in Bali, building an empire. You know, I used to be a bartender, right? It's funny, I was thinking about my life a few years ago, and I worked in the service industry for a long time, and like I always knew like that was something I could fall back on. Like if I needed to, like that would be the thing. But that was the way I operated in the world, was like, well, let me do the thing that I know I can do.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
And it all came from fear.
Yeah.
And to think about, like, wow, I know I will never bartend again. Like, there's nothing wrong with being in that industry, or being a server, or being a waitress, or like doing whatever you're doing. There's nothing wrong with it. It just didn't work for me. Right. And it's not the life that is in alignment with me.
Right.
Right. Because like I expanded.
Yep. Yeah. You feel that edge where you're just like, you know, it reminds me of being a waitress. And I mean, even from my background that I didn't really share. I mean, I grew up on a farm, extremely poor. Everything was sacrifice, hardship. You know, we had to grow our own food to survive. So everything came from lack and scarcity. So obviously to then become $1 million plus coach, you know, charging over $1 million, a big leap in consciousness and a big leap in experience. And I mean, I had rape attempts, stalkers, kidnappers, sexual abuse, pretty much every trauma you could imagine. That's why they did it. When they did a documentary in my life, they were like, this is too much. Like, people won't believe this. I'm like, well, that's what I chose to experience, so that I could be who I am today. That like, I see everything as beautiful and divine. Everything is like a gorgeous experience. We chose as our highest self, you know, to experience all these different things. So it's all fucking glorious and it's all beautiful. And, you know, even to be who I am, fully expressed and fully embodied, like there was so many fears around being seen. If I was seen, I was going to be attacked. I was going to be abused. I was going to be abandoned. I was going to die. You know, deepest fears I created with my little girl, like contracts to stay safe, which was to make my skin, have all these issues, struggle with my weight. I was anorexic and bulimic for many years of, from young age, really obsessed about that. I have to look perfect and be perfect, and being those programs to, recognizing, it reminds me, like I said, when I was a waitress, and really it was like this moment when I experienced, finding out that my husband that I was married to for 7 years. I was also raised in this church, in this religion that was extremely strict. You couldn't even, wearing a tank top, you're like the devil, and you couldn't even say the word masturbation. Everything was just so suppressed. So there was like, I can't take up space. I don't have opinion. I can't be seen or heard. All that's unsafe. Hence my programming. I attracted rape attempts, stalkers, kidnappers, all these scary things, to not trust life, to not trust the world, to not trust myself. And I remember being a waitress and literally like I obviously know only what I know. And I'm like, I know that there's got to be a greater life. There's got to be something greater. And I remember witnessing and seeing all these other waiters and waitresses that had worked there for 6, 8, 10 years. They all were like, someday I'm going to, go to school. Someday I'm going to do my business. Someday I'm going to do this thing. And I was like, this fucking someday thing is crazy. It's like, and that is the journey of let me look at these stories and let me dissolve them and get curious. So the first step for me, really, when I healed myself of breast cancer, I received a download, and really from the angelic realm, of walking myself through consciously how to see through the illusion of what I'm consciously doing, how I'm reacting unconsciously, to consciously responding. And that's one of the main things that I teach is the 5 steps. And, that is like a base foundation of teaching that. And it began to evolve versus the mindset. It became how to emotionally, release things out of the body and then to dissolve the story that now there's a new story that I can believe to be true within my body. And then what are the patterns and the behaviors that are actually supporting that? Well, then we get to what are the patterns I'm going to practice? I'm just practicing and playing my way into the best life ever. That's the thing. It's all coming from this frequency of I'm just here to play. Hence, when I'm led by spirit, this is why so much of what I teach now is, yes, embodied empire led by spirit, because I built an empire led by spirit. I wouldn't be who I am today if I didn't each step like, ooh, this is calling me forth. Woo. And I'll give you an example. So I became the waitress and then as I was like, I really get to what else? Moms living their purpose and all this.
Marci, you broke up for a little bit. You said when you were a waitress and then you cut out.
Yeah, there's a couple times that I lose you, but then it unfreezes and I catch like the end of what you're saying and I pretty much have it, but this is gonna be fun.
Okay, perfect.
we're playing with the Bali Wi-Fi, the fun stuff. But yeah, my point is that like I got led to a seminar, an event about moms living on their purpose. And it was the first time my eyes were kind of awakened to, I could do something I love and I can make an income. And so as they were offering like a seminar that weekend for $500. At the time, I literally had $10 to my name in my, bank, in my literally $10 in my savings account. Everything was moment by moment. I had a friend sleep on my couch at night to be able to be there with my boys so I could waitress at night and raise my kids during the day because they were like 1 and 4 years old at the time. And by me going, okay, how do I get to create this? What else would be possible? And I got really curious and I was like, all right, like I'm going to make $130 a night in tips. And the usual was like 20, $30. And I just set this intention and I was like, what else can I do? What else can I sell? What else can I provide? And the universe responded to my actions of my, like, this is what I'm intending and creating. And literally I would have like these tables that would leave me $60 in tips and the meal was like $30. And I just, the first night got like 130, was like, holy shit, like this really this really works. And so long story short, I made exactly enough to go to the seminar. I went to this weekend seminar and again, then had this insight of like, and I get to invest in myself. I am the greatest asset that ever is. Every single one of us is our own greatest asset. It's not the car or the house or any of these things. You are the only one that can create the car, the house, all these things. And so investing in myself, I wanted to coach with this mentor. This was my first mentor, $15,000. I had $10 to my name. I was making $2 an hour as a waitress. And so again, the stories, and this is kind of the download that I had where I start to work through. It's like, oh, well, what am I feeling? I'm feeling fear and nervousness. And if I would have listened to everyone else, which is like, oh, you should just, be a responsible person and save up the money. And I was looking around going, everyone's doing this and it's not working. Sticking to the program and the plan, it's a pretty shitty ass plan. So I really was realizing that normal is shitty. Like normal is sacrifice and suffering and struggle and survival and all these things. So, I got to walk myself through these steps and restory things and be like, all right, well, what else is possible? How else can I create this? And I ended up creating, first payment, able to do with this coach, not even sure how the fuck I'm going to come up with the next payment, let alone still pay my bills. And just following, when we take that step, again, then the energy is in frequency and alignment to receive the next step and the next step. And that is how creation happens. So many of us are programmed that I got to plan it all out. I've got to have a website. I've got to have more knowledge. I've got to have all these things. And that's actually just a mental game, which our thoughts again are, if we look at what's vibrating in our bodies and our cells, it's 500,000 times more powerful than a thought. This is why self-empowerment that's based off, just shift your thought and say your affirmations and shift your focus. You're like saying this, but your body's like, blah, like expressing like, that's not fucking true for me. And I believe this. And that's what gets to be healed and alchemized. So, I mean, I obviously, you know, I won't go into the long story of it, but I you know, created getting this coach as my mentor. And within a month, again, now I was highly committed to doing everything that I was being told to do, right? Or being taught to do. And it all scared the fuck out of me. It all was out of my comfort zone, every single one of it. But again, my comfort zone was this. My comfort zone was like, and settle and sacrifice. That's what I was tolerating in life. And so again, with each step, and this is where I really love to fill in the gaps for people. With each step, it was, you know, feeling the story and alchemizing the story and seeing what else was possible and true, and then how to step forward and implement it. That, you know, within 30 days, I think I had the idea for my 90-day mind body transformation program in gyms, was led to offer that. And I the first night I had interviews for people to participate, I walked out of the gym with $15,000 in my hand. I had never even seen $15,000. I'd never bought a car like that was nice. It was like my shitty car that barely like made it from place to place, A to B. You know, like the idea of even spending, you know, money on a car, a nice car, was foreign to me, because I was raised where we had like rust holes through our cars and on the farm, and, you know, so again, that just up leveled my consciousness as to what was actually possible. From there, I went to multiply my programs, had trainers working for me, became the nutrition fitness expert on TV, moved to California, which was way out of my comfort zone, to do the next level, the next step, became the $1 million mentor. I mean, I went from being like the life, like I can't even remember what it was called, like the to like the fuck yes life mentor, to the $1 million coach mentor. You know what I mean? Like, just life kept evolving. And I remember looking at it and going at, you know, I moved to California, created the magical manifestation mansion that was a place for community to be able to do stuff and have VIP clients come, and having, you know, I had like a nanny and a house manager that did everything. And my kids' school alone, because I put them in a really nice school where they could travel with me. I, you know, took them to do ayahuasca when they were 9 and 12 and do my retreats and things like that. And it was like, I spent 15 grand a month on just my kids' school, you know? So it's like, but it up leveled my next level of receiving. And until we're willing to step through, I always say, wherever there's resistance, on the other side is what is just waiting for us to receive. And whenever we feel an energy, this is why we get to kind of clean up all of our lives. And I believe in like being two things: proactive, looking at our lives of like what's not working, being proactive. And I teach a deep dive on like getting clear with your unconscious commitments. What are you unconsciously committed to that you're not even realizing is operating in your life? And how we become present. Because living in this moment, it's not outside of us. It's not like, so many people are like, what's my purpose? And I'm like, you're your fucking purpose. Like right now in this moment, you came here for you to discover your unapologetic expression and your gifts and your capabilities. So in this moment, if I'm feeling resistance in a relationship, in anything, even with money, money is not money is just a reflection of how much I believe I'm worthy to receive, my own value, and how much I'm actually raising my hand and sharing with the world. It's just a value exchange. So if I'm like, oh, I'm not enough yet and I need to do this, I'm literally saying I'm only worthy of this. But the moment I can move through those things and actually step into, I'm actually, okay, I can receive that. So it's to proactively look at what's not working. These are the ways that I really quantum leap. And I've moved so quickly through all these amazing life experiences and continue to grow and evolve, as well as the people I teach, is because we're tuning into the micros of what's not working. And we're being present that if I'm living life and anything that's showing up is literally telling me what wants to be cleansed and healed. So if I want to make millions of dollars and yet my relationships are shitty or something else, people think, oh, no, I just need to put on the plan and do the, like I said, the systems, the structure, the focus of like building a business and do these things. But guess what? Like your vibration is that it's actually showing you that until you clean up this energy with a relationship or what you tolerate in life, like what you're being able to consciously communicate, set your boundaries, have like ask for what you want, all that is blocking you from receiving the money. So it's all interconnected. It's not, let me do business. It's fucking, let me live my life as my greatest adventure and alchemize everything. That my relationships are amazing. They're magnified. They're only divine allies who want to fucking rock life like you. And like, we have a beautiful story of having like the most glorious experience in a tantra immersion together, you know, like people that are like leaning in to those edges that feel uncomfortable, and like, what else is it that I get to heal that I can receive even more sensually, pleasure codes, with touch, with money as a reflection of the abundance that the universe has for us, with my body vessel becoming a alchemized, attuned rainbow light body that I'm just filled with light. I've only continued to get younger every day and every year. As like you look back and like back when I was a nutrition fitness expert and I was shredded, and yet I look 10 years older than I do now because I was just worn down. You know what I mean? And it's like the more light I became, the more I learned and realized I just regenerate myself, and I'm using universal life force energy, and life force energy is flowing through me, that I just, every fucking area gets to be amazing. But we can only do that by being, as you share so much, vulnerable as fuck. I believe in transparencies. There's nothing to hide and there's nothing to prove. And by that means I get to claim what I desire and move through those things to allow myself to actually receive what's my perfect path, because my perfect path is the only path for me. And that's how it works for everybody. It's not follow someone else's path. It's like follow your own intuition and guidance. And each thing that's in your field, even if it feels uncomfortable, that's exactly where we get to land, to receive.
I love that. You said so many things that were epic, but something that you said that really stuck out to me was your perfect path. Yeah, because a lot of us, including myself, like I'm learning this now. Learning about how it is that you like to operate in the world, right? Like I'm so blessed that I've had many coaches, and I'm always in the coaching container. I always have a mentor. And sometimes I've tried to do the thing that they have done. Yeah. Right? Like, oh, well, it worked for them. Let me do that. And what I'm learning about myself is I don't operate the same as everybody else. You don't operate the same as everybody else. Like everyone has a different way that they work in the world, right? Like, I don't know if you're interested, if you know about human design, I'm sure you do. I'm learning more about, I'm learning more about my human design, my gene keys, and I have been operating and doing business as if I'm this like manifesting generator, like a lion, and I could be, but I don't. But what naturally, I'm a guide. I have ideas. I'm a creator. I have so many ideas. So that is what I'm leaning more into. Is like, okay, how can I just keep sharing, and having and setting my life up so that these things these ideas can be done and created with a team, with support, right? So like that's the way. But the way I was doing things before was like, oh well, this worked for other people. This is how I should do it. So I'm really, and it takes trying though. It takes fucking up. It takes feeling overwhelmed and noticing, okay, this is not working for me anymore. I feel tired. I feel overwhelmed. I feel stressed. I feel anxious all the time. Okay, that doesn't work. Now, what's the new way that I can still share what I meant to call forth into the world and do it differently, right? And do it on my time and on my path, your perfect path.
Yep. And that is so, if people realize, again, when you're operating from the trying to be something that you're not, do something that you're not, etc., act from a certain way. Again, this is why in our programming as well, most of the only ways we've had examples of doing business have all been masculine, structural, force fight, work hard, like we have so many examples of that. And I found and discovered, like, really, when I'm operating from that place, all your energy is leaking, and it's just like you're exhausted and you're getting an inkling of the result. The moment we switch into honoring ourselves, again, the frequency, the vibration of even let me honor myself, allow myself to be worthy, flow with where I feel called to create, etc. Like I'm a fucking producer, like things I, create in such huge ways with an inkling of the effort and energy. And so when we start to realize everything is vibration, everything is energy, and we come back to this home base of like, what is the energy and vibration of this? If you're like, I'm struggling, I'm striving, I'm forcing myself, this idea, then you're always going to create whatever you're creating from. So whatever you put out in the world is filled with fear and stress and worry, etc. And it reminds me of like, he was about to do a huge launch because again, at a certain point in my life, I still have like, now I'm back to where I have personal clients and different things. For a while I was called to just let it all go, $1 million clients, everything, and go travel the world and teach in caves and ashrams and, do all the crazy shit and open up all the gifts and capabilities. And I remember this client was very much like having a launch starting that day. And I was like, how are you feeling? And he's like, I'm excited. This is gonna be amazing. And something in his energy was just not, I was feeling, because I can tune into people's systems and feel like everything is happening. And I have the gift of like seeing all the gaps in the vision. And I was like, let's just tune in for a moment and like feel into your body and feel into what you're really feeling. And after a minute, what came up was he's like, I'm nervous, I'm scared, it's not going to work. What if this, what if people don't like it? Blah, 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 blah. That's what we got to heal and alchemize, that he came from a clean, pure energy, because otherwise whatever he was going to put out was going to be carrying that energy. And so there's a piece to this of when we distorty, and like what you're saying, when we dissolve that it has to look a certain way or be like everyone else. Again, every single person has their own unique path. That is what's going to give you the highest fulfillment and joy. That's what's going to lead you to, the perfect divine timing of what you offer in your gifts and receiving. When you're not following your own self, you're literally like struggling, and the energy is just depleted. And I'll give you an example of like being led by spirit. There's two that come to mind. And one is this example, like I know I have this video somewhere where I teach, like, have you ever stopped to make money? And people are like, what? How the fuck does that work? Because we're so programmed, I got to force and fight and do and strive and be going to make money. And I was sharing how, as one of the techniques and tools is just, again, tune in to like, where am I being guided? Because most of the time we're so trained to run around like this that we aren't comfortable stopping and sitting and being and feeling and listening to the guidance we have. And so one day I just did this, like, where a little, meditation where I just asked, like, what would be of the highest, greatest, service? What way would I be able to serve even greater? Can ask one question, sit with that and let it contemplate. And as I'm sitting there, all of a sudden I had this vision memory of a girl that went through my program years before when I was nutrition fitness expert, like a 90-day mind body transformation program. And I just heard, like, call her. And now human wise, I could be like, why would I call her? What am I going to say? What's she going to think? Blah, blah, blah. This is the stuff we get to go, oh, well, my guidance is doing this. So I literally just pick up the phone and I message, which I haven't talked to her in years, messaged her and was like, hey, total authenticity, you came in my mind. And I just felt called to check in. And so she's like, oh my gosh, I've been thinking of you. Can we jump on a call? We jump on a call. Finding out what she was doing at the time was now setting up health programs for huge corporations. She's like, your program, because my program was involved in, mind coaching and all that stuff, as well as how to take care of the body. That was one of the stages of me being a personal trainer. And she's like, I've been wanting to implement, your program made such a difference in my life. I want to implement this in corporations. And that within this short call, we had $1 million deal on the table of like a whole nother aspect of business, of ways that I could serve that I hadn't even thought of. It wasn't even my aspect at all. Later on, I coached some of the biggest businesses in the world, and what we implemented of supporting, bringing like light and healing to all of their corporations, all of their employees, all that stemmed from that idea that I never would have had if I didn't listen to that. Another example that really comes up is when I was called and guided to create and offer $1 million coaching. I was only coaching at $150,000 level. That was the highest level that I was coaching at. And it wasn't a mental, let me figure out business, let me plan, what would be the next move, blah, blah, blah. I actually went down, I was in, Colombia doing one of my journeys with ayahuasca, taking one of my retreats down there. And I'm in the medicine with grandmother, abuelita, and she says, it's time. There's 5 people calling you that are, ready for your services, that need you to be able to offer their gifts for the world. And yet they have to invest in themselves at a great enough level to step through their bullshit, really to step through their comfort zone. And so I'm like, okay, is this, I'm like offering at 150. I'm like, is it 250,000? And I'm thinking, because she's like, you need to offer a greater investment, that they're willing to step through their stuff. I'm like, is it 250,000? And she's like, no. And I'm like, okay, is it 500,000? Thinking like, that's crazy. And she's like, no. She's like, it's $1 million. And so it was divine intuition. I was called forth. I had to move through all my bullshit that would have brought up any stories about me offering coaching at that level and what I could offer and receive and the value and the worth. And she's like, it's $1 million. And from that experience, I knew, okay, this is what I'm called to. I literally had the knowing of these 5 individuals that were to make a huge difference in the world, but they required breaking through their bullshit. And if they didn't have a high enough investment in themselves, again, they stay in their comfort zone. So it's just like me as that waitress, spending $15,000, which was more than I could ever imagine, was such a huge investment in myself. And it's the law of parallel returns. Whatever we put energy into, we receive back. If we go to the gym, we receive energy back in our bodies. When we invest in ourselves energetically and learning different things and we implement those things, we receive back in a bigger, greater way than we could have ever imagined. So I'm like, okay, when I coming out of the jungle, it was actually my beloved at the time who I'm like, he's like, so what's new, kind of a thing. And I'm like, well, I'm now offering $1 million coaching. I have 5 people I'm receiving at $1 million level. And he was like, the only person I know that does that is Tony Robbins. And my response was, and I'm motherfucking Marci Locke, and I do it too. And I just like had this, like, I know this is where I'm called. Now, all of the things got to come up for me, but also as I just declared it, and I was like, this is where I'm going. In each moment, the things are coming up to be like, the fears come up and it's like, okay, thank you, sweetheart. That's just the old program. Like, let's alchemize this. Let's feel that. Oh, what is that connected to, and all these layers, and what's actually really true, what is possible. And it was recoding and reprogramming. And it's a big thing that I teach, is coding in our environment and using the spells that we spell into reality, as well as our feelings matching to be able to manifest that. So all of a sudden it's like, I got invited to go speak in some mastermind in Texas, and I got invited to go be with the Rockefellers for dinner in Ohio. And these things that I'm like, okay, I get to, how do I make this work between my boys and flow and do this? And it's like, I don't know, that's just where I'm being called to go. And, so from following this guidance, within 30 days, I had my first $1 million client within 30 days. And that client, even, this is a whole other alchemy process, is that when I was, in curiosity with him, again, I have no attachments, no expectations, which is a huge key to manifesting. It's like, I can have an intention, but everything gets to be for the highest, greatest good. I don't want this person to, I'm only in alignment if what's a fuck yes for each person. And in curiosity with this person, he really wanted what I offered for $1 million coaching, but he wanted it at 500,000. Now, coming from having only done 150 and this being my first person, you think I'd be like, well, okay. And so many times we get stuck in this loop where we're like you said, we're doing what we know we can do. And we go, but I want to create this. I feel called to offer at this level and do this. And so what shows up, because the comfort zone is the universe is always going to bring stuff to us. I call this the Locke law of ascension and receiving fact that I teach, where it's like, the universe will always be like, are you sure? You sure? Because this has been what you've always said that you wanted. And it's just asking us to clarify by our actions and our intent and where we put our focus. So the moment I go, well, I could still do that. And yeah, I can still take that. I'm saying yes here, and I'm saying no to more. I'm saying no to something else. So whatever I'm saying yes to, I'm saying no to something else, and vice versa. When I say no to something, I'm actually opening the space for this. So with this person, I was like, hey, I'm not attached, whatever's right for you. If you want the $1 million coaching, what that includes, it's a $1 million investment in yourself. If you want the 500,000, it's a $500,000 investment in yourself. This is what you get. And I believe in under promise, over deliver. So I'm always like, this is what you get. I know I'm going to fucking way over deliver. And so it was a big, massive stretch for this person to even invest $1 million. Again, just like Abuelita told me, right? And he ended up doing the $1 million investment. And within 5 weeks, he had a $5 million ROI in his business, which he was like, if we hadn't worked through these blocks and these barriers and these things, that would have never happened. These deals would have never happened. So again, so much of it is remembering or coming to trusting ourselves, which the only way we can build that muscle, if you will, is to practice and to play and to start to like, ooh, well, what else is possible? And let me follow this and let me get curious like you are. Like, well, then how are all the ways that I can share the ways that I love and use my vision and be supported, that you're staying in your zone of genius and everyone else is there to support you, that we're all operating in our greatest, highest light, and we receive at such a huge level, So, I mean, those come to mind where it's like, this is the opportunity we have. Yet the opportunity right now is, can I move without this idea of like, well, I have to know what it's going to look like. And so I shifted. Uncertainty used to be my greatest fear. Like, so scared of everything, so afraid of rejection and failure, etc. Now, as I recoded, it's actually my greatest adventure. like, I'm so excited to see what's going to happen. And now I live life where I don't have to fucking know anything that's going to happen. I love the adventure. So we literally reprogram ourselves, and we come to a place of operating where our core wounds become our greatest strengths and our greatest gifts and abilities. That's why, like, your gene keys, your DNA map, you see all the shadows and you're like, holy fuck, that's been my life experience. You look at the shadows and you're like, oh my God, yes, that's all the shit that I've been in through. And that's your exact map to alchemize those things to a greater frequency of a gift, and then to alchemize into a acidic state that you're truly operating from your blueprint, your DNA blueprint, which can only come from you.
Yeah. And it's hard to, you know, like, accept and surrender. This is who you are. And how can you work with who you are and alchemize it into your greatest gift? Right. And be careful when you are finding out who you are and the thing that's easy for you, and you wish and find yourself going, oh, I wish I can do things like that, like this person. Like, I'm not organized.
Yeah.
And I'm jealous. Like, there's I look at people who are very organized, color coordinated, and do all these things, and I'm like, damn, I wish my brain worked like that sometimes. But I totally surrender and trust that it doesn't, and it works. And I know what I'm really good at. I'm really good at creating, and I have so many cool ideas. So I let that go. Yes, and I have other people organize things for me.
Right. Exactly. It's like, how can I pay for support of this? And I'm actually making, you know, all the income and doing all the things I actually love. And that's one of the main teachings I teach with Embodied Empire is, you know, we're here to break all the rules. Like, they're actually, the idea of rules and paradigms and programs, it's all been based off of low vibrational density, you know, hard ass shit that just does not work for a light being. It's just not the way that we're designed to create and to move with the earth and all things, and to be in our divinity and to be in our flow. We get to harmonize the feminine masculine, which is that structure. So it's like, what you might realize is, like, this feels a little bit of chaos. I get to have some organization. Who do I hire? Who on my team supports that? I don't know how to do a PayPal. I don't know how to book my own flight. I haven't done any of that stuff for so many years. I have like a head assistant that like runs my life and my world. You know, I haven't done that for so long. And I'm like, it would just be pointless for me. It's like, I get to stay in my genius and I have the people that support that.
Yeah.
So we're here to break all the rules. And the one of the main things that I would say to people is, if it doesn't light you the fuck up, if it doesn't allow you to be joyful and fulfilled, it's not a fuck yes for you. It's not an alignment. And then you just look at, how is this showing up in all my life? How am I tolerating? It's okay. I could put up with this, instead of consistently, you know, I believe there's no such thing as settle or sacrifice. So the more that I'm in my authentic truth, and the more that I allow that to shine through me, you know, leaving really no space in my container of me that isn't aligned, that isn't embodied, that isn't authentic, that isn't me, then it literally clears out all the bullshit. And, you know, years ago, I mean, I say fuck a lot. I do express myself that way, but I mean, I was raised Mormon, and, you know, again, like you, and I remember the first time I was on stage, and I had committed to, you know, being an open channel to just let things flow through. And that scared the fuck out of me, again, because everything like, oh, it's got to be perfect. And the first time this word wanted to come out of me, and I do that. And I looked at all the stories. People aren't going to hear my message. They're going to blah, 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 where a Mormon religion environment, right? And as I looked at that, and I was like, well, you know, like, maybe God is using that word coming through me, because that's actually what triggers people and wakes them up. And like, I evaluated all of it. Like, what is, like, to someone else, like, fuck is just like, to me, it's an expression, but to someone else, they go, oh my gosh, you said the word fuck, you're a bad person, da, da, da. And like, if they let a word determine their life, like, who's really in control? If a word controls their reality. So every single thing we're triggered by, we know is a reflection of what gets to be healed and loved. So I got to alchemize that to where I just got to fully express. And the next time I was on stage and that came out of me, there was a slight human moment where I was like, oh, and it was just like, oh, it's happening. I'm doing it. I'm committed to just doing it. And after, what I found was so interesting is, there's people that, again, I got this for a couple of years, where people were like, if you just wouldn't swear. And yet I'm like, well, look at my results. Like, what would happen is, the people who were repelled by me, that couldn't handle my full truth. Again, I'm just a reflection of them not being able to handle their full truth or be fully expressed. So again, when we know this, it's kind of like when we start to learn these universal truths, we don't have to create so much drama about it. And like, I see and love and honor everyone being like, oh, if you know, that's okay. That's a thank you for what you're perceiving. This is what's true for me. And I found the people that were just drawn to me that were like, oh, you're just so fully expressed and free. I want that. And of course, I only want to work with the people where I am fully being me and they're ready for that. If I would have hid myself or pretended just to be what society wants me to be, then I call in the same bullshit. And I like work with people that don't, you know, the moment I'm myself, they're like, ah, you're too much. But I'm like, there's never too much in my business. All of me gets to exist.
Yeah.
So, yes to that.
I love that. And then that way, like no one's surprised by you. Like, it's not like you, because then you, when you hide and pretend to be someone that you're not, then you work with someone and then your you comes out and they're like, oh, I didn't know this about you, you know, or it's like, you want to really give everybody, all of you, and the people that are your soul aligned clients or your soul aligned people, the people who will listen to your podcast, people that will listen to, you know, the thing that you have to share in the world are going to be your people because you're being you and they love who you are.
Yep.
Right?
And they're just waiting for you to raise your fucking hand so they can see you.
Yeah, they're waiting for you.
Exactly.
Yeah, like me, when I kept worrying about like how things looked online, the thing and saying things perfectly. And I did worry about those things a lot. And then the more I just started embracing me and embracing the embracing the likes that I say when I'm speaking, embracing the fuck, that is what people want. That's what people want, the you.
Yeah, I believe we're at a time where more than ever we require not just Instagrammable. I mean, everyone's there. I don't believe in anyone being a guru. I believe everyone is their own guru. I believe everyone is the highest frequency for themselves. I'm always just a secondary support system. And I'm always like, you get to see if this resonates for you. You tune into what really works for you, etc. But it's like, what we require more than ever is raw, authentic truth, and you know, one of my biggest journeys has been to come to unconditional acceptance of myself, because that's the only way. And it's not to say that I still don't have human moments. I have human thoughts like comparison, like you said, like, oh, look, they're doing that so good. And the moment I catch, it's a lower vibrational frequency, it's resistance. I like, ooh, interesting. Let me evaluate that. Let me lean in. Like, what am I feeling? I'm feeling, you know, I should do this a better way. And they're doing this so great, and etc. And I come back to the truth. Comparison is the thief of all joy, because like, first off, I have my own fingerprints, toe prints, my own voice box, my own life experience. Even if I was, are we good? We're playing with all this. This is super fun. So something to the fact of comparison being the thief of all joy. Like I said, when I go, these universal truths, I always go back to universal truths. That's always my home base, is to look at energy, because energy never lies. Just like the energy, in my body can never lie. I can only manifest whatever I vibrate. I always look at, the moment I have a thought and it's not in alignment with my divinity or someone else's divinity, I'm not seeing them as God and me as God and all of it being magic and miracles and what it truly is the moment I pay attention. And I'm like, ooh, thank you. Interesting. And I get curious. And this is kind of the 5 steps that I teach, where it's like, and I just look at and witness, oh my gosh, I was having comparison, which I know if comparison is, it's crazy. Comparison is this crazy thought, right? I can never be you. You can never be me. I can never be anyone else. I can have an intention to witness their gifts. Like if you're like, ooh, I love that person is really organized. How can I create more organization in my life? How can I support myself with that? How can I practice that? Yet I'm not trying to be that person, but so many of us are programmed, I got to be that person and be like that person. And oh, why should I do it when they're doing it? And they're doing it so much better. And we're doing this game of comparison, which when we know, again, you're a magical fucking light being, you are divinity, you're perfect, whole, and complete. And you're designed with your own unique blueprint, just like we've been talking about. You have your own fingerprints, your own toe prints, you have 37.2 trillion unique cells vibrating within you. You have your own experiences of life. Even if you're raised in the same family, we know how different we all turn out, right? Like how many different, like how we see life differently, etc. So it's like, for me to have this idea of comparison is actually a crazy thought, creating my own suffering. And then I catch it and go, interesting. And what it's really reflecting is within myself what wants to be healed and loved. And so even, you know, the practice of then going like, if ever, and it's so slight, sometimes every blue moon, I'll see myself if I'm like swiping past something, and I see someone and I swipe quickly and I'm like, ooh, why? It's almost like I had resistance to it. And I'm like, what was there? It's like, oh, this person is so rocking it and all these thoughts. And I was like, and so I transmute it to, thank you, beloved. Thank you for being a voice. Thank you for your expression. Thank you for your gifts. And I honor them for their gifts. I mean, obviously they're this like, wow, thank you for being the reflection for me of what's possible. So we have the opportunity to cleanse even those tiniest little things. Again, when we're like, oh, you know, and we're ignoring what it's wanting to show us is to be revealed and healed and loved, to say, now I can say, oh, this is what I'm so amazing at. And do they reflect a gift or something that I'm wanting to improve upon? Or, you know, a way of being that inspires me? And instead of resisting and pushing it away, because when we start to realize that anytime we're resisting energy and we find ourselves wanting to contract or wanting to move from something, like, I don't agree with those people. Ugh, so happening in the world right now. I did a whole show on us coming together in unity with the vax and the V and all the other things, because it's like trying to create separation. Oh, you believe that, you're actually blocking manifestation. For every little thing where you're putting up a wall, you're blocking the effortless flow of the infinite supply of abundance flowing into you that is for you to manifest and for you to receive. So each of those things are for us to take responsibility, radical responsibility. And so for me, one of the greatest journeys was coming to unconditional love and acceptance of myself. I did a whole show called The Luscious Love Affair with Myself, which was the first one I ever let out on my podcast. And it scared the fuck out of me. Again, to even share those things, that was the next level of expressing myself and owning like my truth, and just be okay with whatever people see and hear, and being like, I'm here for truth. I'm here to just be all of it. And so, yeah, it allows us to catch what these universal laws go, wait, if everything is energy, if it's not a vibration of like unconditional love and acceptance, by each time I caught one of those things and got to bring it into micro alignment, and then what am I practicing and implementing so that I am in that vibration? That's the only way I am in unconditional love and acceptance of all of life. Because again, I can only love someone else to the degree I love myself, and vice versa. So if I'm like, I only accept myself, you know, if I am a happy person, and if this is all working out and life looks like blessings and magic and miracles and unicorns and fairies and pixie dust, then this is why we as parents, I'm obviously a parent, I have 2 boys, we have a hard time allowing our children to be fully all that they are, because it triggers us. Well, when you behave this way, I'm happy. The moment you are fully expressed, or you have your own thoughts or opinions, etc., that triggers me, and I feel threatened, or control, and control is just trying to control us. So, you know, each one of these things is for us to alchemize, that we become more free. And so the energy will always guide us to exactly what is wanting to be healed and revealed, that we transmute those things. And then it's like, yeah, like comparison doesn't really happen for me anymore. There's still, like I said, and we're all still human. There's moments I'm definitely human. I can see you. I think you are one of the most beautiful, glorious beings. I remember when I saw you for the first time, and we barely interacted. This was before we had orgasmic energy sex in a tantra immersion. But I remember seeing you, and I was just like, oh, like I was just in awe of your light. And I was actually alchemizing some really heavy things, I was feeling a lot of the depth of the human stuff of not feeling beautiful and not feeling enough. And it was just perfect. The next layer reflecting for me. And so then I see this beautiful being like you, and the former me would have been like, oh my God, I'm going to go hide because I'm just not enough and I don't fit in. Instead, I was like, oh, and I practiced being like, wow, you're so beautiful. Wow, you're so glorious. And I'm not just talking physically. You're such a beautiful light being. And I'm so grateful I had more opportunities to really connect with you and feel your soul, and, you know, hence having a beautiful, energetic, glorious experience in the tantra immersion. I was like, wow, this being, no wonder I felt her and saw her. She's so glorious and filled with light. But it's for me to then go, I also am light. And again, we're just sacred mirrors reflecting everything for each other. So the more that I heal and alchemize what's in resistance for myself, the more I am open and I see the God, the divinity in all things. And I become a field and a capacity for unconditional love. So in everything that I teach and do, so much of the time, everyone in my program says the moment they come to my space, it's just like this space of, they feel like held in love, and like everything is okay. Every thought, every experience, everything. There's no judgment about anything, because I see it all as beautiful and divine. I can only be that because I've been that for myself. I can only be that for my kids because I've learned to be that for myself. And that is truly how we come to operating from 5th dimensional consciousness and above, which is unconditional love, we get to fully unconditionally love ourselves. And that's applying grace and, you know, so many of the things you teach, vulnerability and authenticity, and just
so
learning
good.
to love our beautiful journey. Yeah.
Thank you for that. And yeah, I agree with your clients because yeah, when I'm around you, and I remember that during that time when we met, I was in a tough place. And
Yeah.
I remember we sat down together. There was this night where we were like exchanging our gifts and sharing, what we offer in the world. And
Yeah.
I just sat down and immediately like dissolved around you. You just showered me with love, right?
Mm.
And I'll never forget that. And it's like, and I never knew that that was going on with you, right? Because
Yeah.
you have done so much work to like really
Mm-hmm.
learn how to take ownership and radical responsibility for what you're feeling and what you're triggered by, right? And like that expression of you where you just like loved me was so it reminded me of my remembrance, like reminded me of everything that I am. So if more people knew how to be led by spirit, how to be led by, you know, love and unconditional love, right? The world would change, right? Because there's no more of this like, oh, I need to be in competition with this person, or I need, oh, like let me think about myself and all the things. So,
Mm-hmm.
and I just had a question that I just thought of that I don't think anyone on this summit has spoken about yet. How do you know when when spirit or when you're being led by something? Is it that voice that's in your head? Is it that
It's energy. So when we start to
okay?
practice, yeah, when we start to practice, like a way that I would practice is like even going for a walk, I could be like, ooh, which way feels good? So notice instead of thinking it through, I started to realize I get to feel things through. So if I ever caught myself, well, I think I'm like, well, wait, what feels the most? And so I always say, like, I have a lot of key imprintings for people that they start to attune to, where and like, what feels the most nourishing for my soul every day, every moment, like what feels the most nourishing for my soul now? And this is why I said when I'm feeling into like what actually feels good, I'm starting to reprogram that I get to operate from what feels good, what feels amazing, not what I think I have to do or should do or need to do, which are all low vibrational shooting all over ourselves. It's what I should do, right? And so it's like, ooh, like when we start to practice and play with like, ooh, which direction feels good, right or left? Oh, I feel more energy over here. And the more we're paying attention to, again, so I believe every single fucking moment is intentional. Every single interaction was designed, every moment. This was such a big teaching for me when I was in India. I was in India several times working with enlightened masters and gurus and meditating in caves and doing all sorts of stuff. And one of the key codes that I got was every single interaction, every single moment is for a reason. What am I here to receive from this person? What am I here to give? And I share a whole podcast about that, which is just such a key code for me. And so if I believe that literally my life again is my purpose, every step is, I'm the sacred medicine, I am the magic, every step is my altar, everything is intentional. I'm starting to go, ooh, well, like the energy, so something pops up into the field, just like I mentioned how I'm sitting there like, ooh, what is it that, what is it, the thing that would support the most or would be the highest, greatest light? And as I sat, all of a sudden it was like, call this person. I didn't go, well, that's crazy. It was just like, oh, so right now I've just mentioned to you before we started the call. I mean, we're good friends. And I was like, babes, I found my land. Like I was feeling called. It just land started popping up into my field. And the galactics that I communicate were like, yeah, like you get to be a part of New Earth community and New Earth land, and you being a vessel for that. And no time frame, no idea, etc. It just had popped into my field, and all of a sudden I moved down here and it was like land. It just kept popping into my field. So I was like, oh, interesting, curious. And I just started asking questions and just following what was popping up. And I was on this specific beach, this beautiful beach that I believe is really sacred land. It's hardly utilized at all. No one's buying or building up there. It's only Balinese families. Everyone's always interested in all these other areas. And I just had this feeling, again, it was like, this is sacred land. This is where I get to create New Earth community. And it just was. And so I start to speak it. This is one of the things we follow the energy, and we're just like getting curious. We're just playing a big fucking game. Like we're even with our inner selves, all of discovery, when as I give myself permission as a 3-year-old to play like a 3-year-old, like, ooh, what would that look like? And what else could that be?
Yeah.
And when we've created programs to keep ourselves safe and stuck. So we might go, well, I don't know. I always teach people, I don't know. Well, you're the only one who can know, right, beloved? Like you are the highest frequency. So we just make it fun. We're like, well, what else would that look like? What would that be? And we're just reminding ourselves, because usually that comes up as like I'm actually afraid of what's on the other side. I'm afraid to find that, and our inner self, our ego, etc., is trying to keep ourselves safe. So as I was actually with a beloved sister, which you know as well, and we went down to just like, be in the beach and the land and do sacred ceremony. And I said, yeah, I feel like this is my land. I feel like it's in this area. And she's like, oh, I have a friend, him and his beloved actually built above this area. And I was like, wow, would you connect me with him? And I'm just thinking this person has figured it out, has done it. And so I connect with this person, and it's literally like soul alignment. Like I literally felt the essence of this person. Was like soul beloved, and I had no idea. For the past 5 years he'd been figuring the whole thing out, like everything. And so I meet with him, and this is a little funny manifestation story of how fast manifestation happens. So that morning, this day that I'm going to meet with him, that morning, go to hot Pilates. I'm with my beloved sister, and I see 2 women wearing these really sexy pants. And I was like, ooh, I love those pants. Those are sexy pants. And I was like, ooh, I would love some pants like that. And so then we go do all of our fun things, and we're in the highest alignment. We go to like the Ashtana, we're in the cold plunge. We're like chanting Ganesha, to be in like 5 minutes of cold flu, and just being this like vibration of fun and play. Again, this is manifestation, is when you're coming from the vibration of I'm fulfilled. The moment I put my attention towards anything, it shows up. This is why I mentioned the pants. So we go meet this beloved, and literally, like, I'm like, it's soul aligned. He starts telling me about this land, this specific land, the only piece of land that's like on a hill and has this thing. And I was like, it was either he told me or I told him. I started telling him I had this vision of this land and how it looked. And he was like, I have that land. He's like, I've actually been holding off on it because I felt like it was for something very sacred. And he's like, I almost was like, like I haven't told people about it because I know everybody will want it right away. It's like the only piece like this. And that's my fucking land. 2 minutes away, he's like, let's go. We go 2 minutes away, see the land and everything. I'm like, this is my land, etc. So when I'm at his house though, I look down, and on the table, there's the same exact pants that I had seen that morning, packaged brand new with this other pair of pants. And I was like, oh, those are those pants I saw this morning. Those are some sexy pants. I was like, I would like some of those pants. And he's like, my dear friend just dropped them off this morning. She ordered them online. They don't fit her. So she gave them to me to see if my beloved, if she'd want them, if they would fit her. They don't fit her. He's like, do you want them? They fit me fucking perfectly. Like, so I got that pair of pants and another pair. They were like the same size, like cute, sexy ass pants, handed to me. The universe is giving me that, not to mention like all the newer stuff. And so I'm just like, the moment when we follow, I would have no idea that this person was even the person that would guide me to this. And now we're working out, literally purchasing the land and working with the family and all this stuff. And it's just like, everything is such a different frequency and vibration of experiencing this is my process, where years and years ago, when I did build a house and do some different properties, it came from like, working with construction workers and figuring this out. Literally, I'm like, cool. He just takes care of all of it. Everything that I want is designed. And I'm like, that's how easy it gets to be. And that's the thing. It's hardly any effort with massive results when we simply will follow. So just paying attention to what's popping into your field and your awareness, getting curious, following the energy, like what is the most joyful? What is the most nourishing? That's why I said one of the main, things that I teach for creating an embodied empire led by spirit is, does this bring me fucking joy? Is this of the highest nourishment for my soul? If it's not, I'm in that old story. Instead of one of the things I always say is that if you're not moving towards what you want in some way, you're in some sort of story, excuse, or validation as to why you can't have it, versus this is what I want. Cool. How would that look like? $15,000 coaching when I was a $2 an hour waitress with $10 in my name and just, paying a friend to sleep on my couch at night to feed my boys. $15,000 coaching would have been crazy. It doesn't matter. Like it's like, but that's the mind. Instead, it comes from the body being like, ooh, what am I feeling? I'm feeling called to work with this person. I know this is where I get to invest in myself. What would be possible? How could I create that? And I get curious. And when there's a no, it's like, oh, there's another way. That's no, it's we're in a game of alchemy. We all have an inner alchemist. We all are this divine light being that everything else that's not in vibrational alignment with our divinity is here for us to alchemize, here for us to transmute, that we are that capacity. And that the deeper we go into our depths means the higher I can go into my heights of the pleasure and the bliss and the place. So if we're unwilling to go here where it feels uncomfortable, it's a reflection again of how much we're willing to receive ourselves and how comfortable we are with ourselves, that then allows me to expand, to have like, oh, I can receive this much pleasure. Oh, it can be this easy. And then we might have another wave, because again, life is like this. It's not meant to be this stagnant, like we think, oh, when we've done all these things, it's going to be like this. But I had built and created the life that most people dream about, like the magical manifestation mansion, $1 million clients, blah, 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 blah. And the universe, spirit guided me to let it all fucking go. We moved my boys to Utah to live with their dad for the first time. That was a huge alchemy process. It was like, don't take on any more clients, no more masterminds, no more retreats, nothing, and go global. And it was like, you have a journey of aloneness. And at first I was like, why the fuck do I need to be alone? I love my alone time. I'm totally whole and healed with my alone time. But something in me was like, ooh, that feels scary. Feels scary. I'd gone to retreats and I'd have my team set up everything for me, blah, blah, blah. But to just go where spirit guided me to just travel around the world, literally let go of everything that was creating money in our business. It was like I had what we see as like top success. Became really aware was like just bottom of the totem pole of what we spiritually are able to access and be. And by, again, getting uncomfortable, surrendering all the ideas, stories, everything that my ego was attached to, of my identity that I'd created, and going global, what all that stuff around aloneness was my deepest healing. I found that being alone scared the fuck out of me. I was afraid I was going to be abandoned again and die and be attacked and be lost, and being global. All of that got to alchemize, and it became the journey with myself. This is when I had the luscious love affair with myself. When I was teaching in ashrams and guided to lead and do retreats around the world that were like, basically I was charging costs. I'm going to pay for this place, let people come. My retreats in the past were like 15 grand a person, and it was like letting go of the ego and destoring all of that and dissolving, even like transcending the idea of money altogether. What came through was when I started to channel like light codes and light language, and beings like literally could like take a room of people and literally recode their systems. I couldn't have ever fucking done that before, but it took me surrendering all of it to then open up the next gifts and capabilities to even be what I'm experiencing now. So it's always just it always just gets greater and greater, but we get to follow the call. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're just following. And when you fulfill on your mission, and when you're on your mission, on your path, is when these gifts that are in you, within everybody, get to come out.
Yeah, so, that's you activate them, you open them, you receive them, the like step by step, the things, and it doesn't happen without you taking the step. And it was in India that I really also coded in, that I realized, like, again, that's why I kind of transcended the idea of money altogether. And was like, when I'm in my dharma, which is my passion, my highest purpose, I'm in my highest joy and excitement, and I'm in, my service, I'm always going to be fucking supported. Like, life will always support. Even when I was in the place where we still had so many philanthropy projects around the world that we funded, I still had my entire team I was paying for, and I literally let go of doing everything, because the universe was like, no, you don't get to offer things. And everything in me wanted to be like, oh, we need to offer this or do that. And it was like, no. And I realized I could have never gone through the alchemy and the inner immersions and growth. I was all over the world doing medicines, and like I said, meditating in caves with enlightened masters and doing immense things that I was called to. There's no way I could have held space for a personal client, run a retreat, done masterminds, and any of that. I was called to let it all go and let it all die, to dissolve any attachments or identities within myself, to then receive those next levels of gifts. So it's a massive surrender experiment to let us to just surrender timelines. Even in all of our creations, everything I've ever created, I've always gotten to surrender the timeline. My book coming out, everything is always like, I have an intention, and then life brings this and this and this. And it's like, it always guides me to where it's so much greater by the time it does come out. It's so much greater than I could have ever imagined it, but it's because I'm following it, not going, well, I can't do it until this. It's like, all right, well, what else? And kind of moving and following that flow, and allowing life to be the guide, allowing our spirit to be the guide. And that is the harmonization, like I said, of the feminine, the masculine, and playing all parts of ourselves, that when we're in flow, it's ease and grace. And when we're this is where disease comes from, dis-ease, out of ease with life. that's why we have dysfunction, we have separation, we create separation from ourselves. The greatest lie we've ever bought into is separation from ourselves and our divinity, separation from each other by these stories that get in the way. So that's when we create disease and dysfunction, and we get to come back to an original God blueprint that operates with ease and grace, divinely guided by flow and by our spirit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So many gifts and codes. Thank you so much. This is so epic. Before we wrap up, I know you have a gift that you want to share with us.
Yeah. So I love gifts. I'm a gift giver. It is definitely one of my love languages. I love to just, and I see so much. I'm always like, oh, I just want you to have all the things. Cause the way that I operate is I see the whole path. And so that's why, like, I can see the loopholes in like surface self-empowerment of things. I'm like, you have this piece, but then you're literally operating from this, which is, sabotaging or dissolving all of that in the first place. So, we actually have a product on my website that is the Quantum Leap package that we put together to just really quantum leap people forward, giving them several things. Let's see, it includes my wake up today activation, which is still one of my favorites. All my peeps, it's like their favorite thing they turn on in the morning, that literally walks you through encoding your reality and encoding the day that you're going to create and harmonizing, coming to that vibration. I think we have like one of my famous breath plays, which is the longevity breath to help you alchemize the body and create usefulness, because we're so youthful. And then the thing that we've been talking about, my 5 steps, is the foundational thing. It's like my gift to the world. I would love everyone to receive, because it was given to me by the angels and guides, is how to walk through anything, how to walk through any resistance in your life, from what's unconscious to consciously operating. And that includes, so the 5 steps, it includes emotional alchemy. It teaches you all of that. It's like my entire program of the 5 steps.
Amazing.
I think we also have one of my activations, one of my live encoding activations from one of my events. And and I think my joy training, living in 100% joy now, teaching people how to alchemize and literally create and play and live from joy and bliss and ease, and even through suffering. So that's like the whole Quantum Leap package. It's actually a product on my site, but if you go to my site, and it's like marcilock.com, you go to shop. So I think you can do /shop. You go find the Quantum Leap package and you click on that. If you put in the code Alchemist, which is all caps, because I'm an alchemist, you're an alchemist, it gives it to you for free. So
amazing.
Yeah.
That is epic. So everyone watching, you're welcome.
I love you, Veronica, because Veronica is so special to me. Yeah, like I believe everybody gets to have freedom. It's just a matter of do they decide to put their time, effort, and energy into themselves to be able to receive that, So yeah.
And this interview was so good. You gave us so much nuggets of wisdom. That the Quantum Leap package, that sounds epic. I'm gonna go in there myself and get that activation day meditation, because I'm sure it's epic. Because this is why I'm so excited that you're on, because like you just have so many gifts about being brave and daring and vulnerable and authentic and truthful and all the epic things. So thank you.
I appreciate that. Thank you, beloved. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for being the light that you are, and the journey that you've had, that literally you keep creating, you keep having these visions of what will support the world and how you share your gifts. Because I mean, even when I do get to see stuff that you share, I'm always like, fucking yes, like the messages, the truth that you bring. And I have seen such a huge shift, even from the first time I met you, of you just like really stepping into that even more and more and more. And like I said, just the title, Daring as Fuck, we're like, yes, let's all we get to fully embrace all that we are. So I honor you, sister, for being a reflection of that, an example of that, and bringing those codes and truth for people to be able to experience that as well. That we all, it's like the mantra, loka samasa soki no sumantu, which is like may all beings be happy, may all beings be blessed, may all beings be free. And by you offering your gifts, you're literally giving so many people beyond what you could even imagine this gift of their next level of freedom. So thank you, sister.
Thank you. I receive that.
Yeah.
And for everyone watching, let us know, what were your biggest takeaways from this? Message me, message Sundari, and let us know what you're taking away and what you're going to transform, and share your results with us.
Yeah, amazing. I love
Okay.
hearing. Fabulous. Yes, 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 yes.
Me too. All right, my love and loves. I will see you on the other side. Thank you again.
Oh, thank you for
Bye.
having me. Mwah.
You're so welcome.